We don't need AI to replace parents. We need AI to support parents. Julie Kelleher calls it being the parent in the loop. And today she's sharing how to use AI in ways that actually fit your family. Welcome to the AI Empowered Mom podcast. AI Empowered Mom is on a mission to reduce the mental load of parenthood through AI assistance. I'm Sarah, the founder of AI Empowered Mom and your host. And I'm so excited today to be joined by Julie Kelleher, EdTech exec, entrepreneur, creator of Like a Mother AI. She has spent her career bringing education technology products to market. And as a mom of two, she's passionate about showing how AI can work for parents, not against them. Julie, welcome. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, let's start out learning a little bit more about you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family life?
So it looks a little bit different every day, but I am a mom of two, middle schooler and an elementary schooler, two girls. And I also work from home. And so kind of like figuring out that balance between work from home, the kids and their routines, and then all of the other things that just happen to fall on the mom to-do list. Like no shade to my husband, but just the mental load is real.
Well, take us on your professional journey. I understand you started as a classroom teacher, then moved to an EdTech executive. Tell me about that journey and how you ended up here.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me when I was graduating from college, what I was going to do when I grew up, I would have never ever imagined where I am today. But it's funny because my degree was called History, Technology, and Society, which at the time was for people. I went to an
Wow.
engineering school. It was for people who it was the closest thing to liberal arts at the engineering school, and at the time it was, but just the internet became popular when I was in college. So just to kind of set the stage there, it was for people who were maybe going to be technical writers, kind of translating that product technology to the market. And I ended up as a classroom teacher. So I taught middle school in the US, and then I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and I taught every grade level, teaching English as a foreign language. And then I came back to the US. I went to grad school for policy because I really thought that there was this disconnect between practitioners and policy. And I thought I was going to stay in policy. I even thought about going back to the classroom. And I ended up taking an entry level job at an ed tech company that was based in DC. It was called Blackboard at the time. It was one of the largest learning management system providers. And I really developed a career in ed tech starting there. So from 2007 until today, that's how my journey evolved. I started in product marketing. Since then, I've gone to startups, I've gone into sales, and I like to say that I've done everything in between, and I really can fill a lot of holes across the go-to-market continuum.
Well, I want to talk at length about AI and education. But first, I have to know about your Peace Corps experience. Where did you go and what was it like?
So I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ukraine in 2001.
Wow.
I know, yeah. So 2001, I moved to Ukraine, and I taught English as a foreign language for 2.5 years. So the first 2 years, I was a teacher in a school in a village that was right outside of a town. So I lived in the town and commuted to the village, which was unusual. And then for the last 6 months, I actually got to live in Kiev and train the next group of volunteers that came in, which was a really, really cool experience to kind of round it all out. But I mean, it was amazing. The best language best language instruction ever. I lived with a host family that didn't speak a single word of English in a very, very remote village for 3 months. And then we would have intense language training, just me and another American who lived with another family in the village, intense language training for hours a day. And then we would go work in a school and learn how to collaborate with teachers who, they spoke English, but they only learned English when they were growing up in the Soviet Union. So it was an amazing experience. And I'm fortunate to get to stay in touch with some people, and and watching closely for what's happening there right now.
Wow. What is that like to watch what's happening now, given your
Yeah,
experience there?
it's very surreal. It's very surreal. It was very, very intense when the war started, and now it's hard to imagine that we're coming up on 3 years. And the Ukrainians have always been very resilient. And when we were volunteers, it was interesting to find out what the national anthem, when you translated it into English, one of the lines is Ukraine is not dead yet, because they just historically have always been in the path of all of these conflicts, and their anthem was like, hey, we're not giving up, we're not dead yet. And so to see the resiliency just carry forward for as long as it's been going on is it's quite moving, and it's really inspiring.
Well, okay, let's talk about AI and education. I want to get your professional opinion. Things are changing so rapidly with the introduction of AI in the classroom. What is your take on it?
That's a huge question, and I think that that's really one of the things that just has organically led me to pursue this additional path of,
Mhm.
right now I'm an independent consultant. I have my own consulting practice. I help education technology companies and nonprofits bring products and services to K-12 and higher education. And over the past year, I've really started to have this kind of internal desire to help build awareness for parents around AI and the role that it's going to have in our lives and the role that it has in our kids' lives today. And so, as a former teacher, as an EdTech practitioner, I think also as a product marketer by, initial training, I have just been drawn to testing out any tool that claims that any AI powered tool that claims it can exponentially help students learn or exponentially help teachers be more productive. I might be a little bit skeptical just by nature. So anything that I can access, I will tinker with it. I will try it out. I will test it out, and I'll give my honest read to anybody who wants to hear it. I think I've been watching the education market closely as AI has kind of just continued to evolve and make efforts to through education technology providers and just AI technology providers writ large to have an impact on education. And what I think is very interesting is that higher ed just tends to be slower than K-12 in adopting new technologies. And K-12 has been it's been really inspiring to watch because K-12 is being very measured in how they're approaching it. They're prioritizing AI literacy
Mhm.
within schools and districts, staff and students. And I think that the skepticism, the more I get into this and the more I read about it and the more I really try to follow not just what's happening from a technology level, but also what's being introduced just daily and new features that kids are going to have access to outside of school. I applaud the slow and measured approach because there's a lot of vaporware out there, and then there's there are good actors and there are bad actors, and I think we're putting a lot of pressure on the schools to have to be the ones that vet that.
Well, for those who might not be familiar with the term, can you explain what vaporware is and then
Oh yeah.
share how families might be on the lookout?
Vaporware, it's when a company or an individual will claim that a product can do something that,
Mhm.
is usually big and bold and promising something that is likely not true.
Mhm.
So, I'll give an example, like AI powered course builders were like a huge thing a year and a half ago. Like, just, it'll take you 1 minute to do something that used to take you 5 days, those kinds of big, bold claims. And like the AI bubble is real. And I think when it comes to education, there have been a lot of products that I would call point solutions that are claiming like we're going to save the teachers and they're not going to have to do any of these things anymore, or the parents, hey, your students don't have to, do homework the old way anymore. This product can do it all for them. And those are things that I'm just naturally skeptical of. And then also, as a kind of ed tech practitioner and as a technologist, I like to look at products and solutions as something that has a one to many value, which means
Mhm.
it can scale and the value can scale equally, equitably across all the users, right? And so many of these point solutions, and some of them are vaporware, claiming things that are just not true, uh, are really one-to-one solutions. Like,
Mm.
you teacher, go use this thing and it will change your life. You parent, go put your child on this thing and it will change their life. And we have to be careful of those things.
Well, as families are navigating this new world and putting their guard up, watching out for vaporware, your idea about keeping a parent in the loop is so important. Can you explain a little bit how you arrived at parent in the loop thinking and help us unpack what it means?
I actually have you to thank. You are one of the people I have to thank for that. So I was when I first started to think like, hey, I can help here. Like, I've learned so much about how AI can help me as a parent, especially in areas like tutoring and idea generation and management of household responsibilities and even encouragement. And
Mhm.
I also realized, hey, there are real risks out there and there are real threats out there and weaknesses in the tools that are available to every consumer. And I don't want to be somebody advocating for something that could potentially cause harm down the road. And so it was really one day just sitting in this office where I was like, I am the parent in the loop when it comes to AI and just like digital access in my house to my kids. As long as they are under 18, I will be the parent in the loop. I thought, well, that's my guiding principle for me. And so if I'm going to share with other parents or caregivers about the things that I've learned that are helpful in partnering with AI on the home front, I first want to encourage them to have a parent in the loop mindset too, because it's their family, it's their choice. They should always be the gatekeeper of if, when, why, where, how anybody in their family uses any technology, especially AI powered technology.
So I want to be a parent in the loop. What does it look like in practice? How do I take on that role for my family?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I have a middle schooler who is testing the boundaries right now. I mean, once I really, as I'm getting more and more into AI literacy and just trying to keep tabs on all the things that are happening. Like I just saw something this morning about something that Meta recently released, which is concerning. I've actually kind of tightened up the boundaries on digital access and I talk to my kids a lot about it. And it's just
Mhm,
this concept of like early and often we need to be having these conversations about what is AI, where is AI present around us? I mean, from things like Alexa and Siri and Spotify to things like them seeing me use ChatGPT or me letting them, play 20 questions with ChatGPT when I'm sitting right next to them
mhm,
and explaining to them why there are some tools that they can use freely, like voice assistants in our house, and other ones that they can't. And also having conversations with my older daughter around the dangers. I mean, not to scare her, but just having these conversations early and often so I would rather be the person having that conversation with her first than somebody else. And
mhm,
I would rather her hear a story that might be alarming from me first than somebody else. And so to me it's just like I kind of apply it to the physical world too. Like I I would never let her go to a playground that I have never been to before right now.
mhm,
I would never let her go to a friend's house that don't know how to contact the parents and haven't met a parent or a friend yet. And it's kind of the same. Like the digital
mhm,
world is actually scarier, and the AI enabled digital world is even scarier. And not to be an alarmist, but I mean, discernment is getting harder and harder by the day.
yes,
And so to me, it's having conversations anywhere we can, the car ride to soccer practice, around the kitchen table, and casual conversations early and often about the digital world and technology. And this morning I was looking at her a device where she has she texts with friends and they're all contacts that I've approved. And she's like, "Mom, are you always going to do this?" I was like, "I mean, until you're 18, yeah." And so just helping her realize too, like, you live in my house, and if you have access to this world, like, I need to know these things. And I wasn't spying on her; I was just adding a contact to a
mhm.
group chat in her like little commuting crew, and so that's what it looks like. It's going to continue to evolve, but it helped me really figure out how I want to be a leader in my family and how I want my kids to see that I create these boundaries and these boundaries may change and I'm going to the extent possible explain to them why.
We're recording this at the beginning of October, and this OpenAI has just announced the new tools, advancements to their video technology, and a new tool called Sora. And I was taking a look at it this morning and looking at some of the videos and kind of spiraling in my own mind, like, these videos are getting so good. Their point of that tool is to allow people to put their own likeness in easily and create videos. It's a new way to socially connect. And I was, having this little mom freak out of like, how will I be able to keep up with all of this and keep my daughters, help them use discernment and figure out what's real and what's not. And then I just took a step back and thought, you know what? Actually, they're able to watch a movie and know that it's not real. And it's just up to me to keep having these conversations early and often. So I had my own mini freak out today and then remembered I'm the parent in the loop, but it's a work. We've got to
Yeah.
do the work to get there. And it is work to review those text messages.
It has been hard to figure out what the parental controls are. Like I know they're there, but it's hard to figure them out. And I mean I consider myself relatively tech savvy. It's hard to figure it out. It's hard to keep track of it. Also, like sometimes I want to like loosen it up and maybe give them a little bit more access, but I have to go change it and then I have to remember to change it back. And also, there are some tools that they like to use that cannot be controlled by like, I use an iPhone. They can't be
Mhm.
controlled by that. And so it is a lot of work.
How do you stay on top of things as the parent in the loop? Anything you can recommend to other moms and caregivers?
Common Sense Media, AI for Education, Innovate EDU, EdSafe Alliance. So there are a few that I'm following and trying to kind of stay on top of it. But I would say at the most basic level, So when I was a teacher, this was the best piece of advice that I received. I received it too late, to be honest, but it was when it comes to behavior management, it's a
Mhm.
lot easier to open the door than it is to close it.
Hmm.
And the same goes for technology and digital access. Keep it closed until you know what's behind that next door
Mhm.
and use whatever tools you have. And this is like a parent in the loop. Figure out what you're most comfortable with.
Mhm.
And if it's too much to allow that much freedom for your child to access a digital world that you're comfortable with, then just limit it, shut it down. And I mean, I've some other folks that I follow who are, child psychologists and positive parenting experts, I'm learning that they're going to appreciate boundaries later. They may be
Mhm.
frustrated in the moment, but they actually want us to put these boundaries up and say no to things. And I've also told my daughter, like, you can always use me as an excuse. You can always say that I am the most strict, just the meanest mom ever that just will not ever let you use these tools. And you can do that forever, honestly.
I love it. I love being a mean mom too.
I heard something recently. It was Lisa DeMore. She wrote Untangled. Her advice, I was listening to the book the other day, just you want to show up as the most boring middle aged mom in front of their teenage friends. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that.
No problem.
Yeah, I like to play that game.
Well, switching gears a little bit, Julie, you recently shared a great study about how parents are the surprising power users of AI. And I want to know, did that surprise you? Who is that surprising to? And what's your takeaway from it?
Yeah, so it was this study by Menlo Ventures that
Mhm.
I learned about actually at an AI first conference, and it was the state of consumer AI. They surveyed over 5,000 adults in the U.S. and there's a lot of great information in there about tool usage and who uses it for what. It was their headline that parents are the surprising power users. I'm not. I was not surprised. I am surprised that a lot of my peers have not used it as much as I have, but I mean, I'm not surprised that we are power users because out of necessity. Another thing that I thought was interesting is that Gen Z and millennials were top of the charts and Gen X was lower. And I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm kind of a bit more bullish on like we Gen Xers, we can get up there too. We can catch up with the Gen Zs and the millennials.
We can. Well, looking ahead, what are you excited about? We've talked about a lot of things to be cautious about, but what are you excited about when it comes to AI's role in education or with family?
What I'm excited about is what I see a as a real opportunity to bridge a gap. And that gap is that there are incredible initiatives happening at the national, state, and local level around AI literacy in schools, which I think is so important. And there is a dearth of initiatives and funding around AI literacy for families.
Mhm.
And that I think is a huge opportunity and a challenge for and almost like a call to action, a rallying cry for somebody like me and, probably you and others that AI literacy is just as important at home as it is at school. And I do not expect schools to do this. I would never put any sort of pressure or expectation on schools. We already put way too much on them. And we need all the minds and eyes and thoughts that we can put together on this to figure out how do we steward these children in this age to thrive and be good digital citizens and learn discernment and also learn to really value what makes us uniquely human. And
Mhm.
that's something that I've really been reflecting on lately too. Like, what do I love that makes me uniquely human? What am I so glad that a robot will never be able to do?
Well, can you share anything on that list? What are you so glad that you will always get to do?
I had this gift this weekend where my kids and my husband were out of town. He gave me that gift, and I had a lot of things on my list. And one of them was I needed to do some fall cleaning. I always find these little treasures that are like, they're like time capsules into the past. And they're like little notes that, somebody wrote to me when they were 4 and like they could barely write mom or, little drawings or, a photo that just brings back a memory. And I was like, AI will never be able to do this. Technology will never be able to do this. Technology, no, nothing will ever be able to replace me seeing something, digital
Mhm.
or physical, and find a connection with it and experience that connection and figure out what I'm going to do with that thing. I love noticing those things, and
Mhm.
I practice yoga. I have a yoga teacher who I love, and she always reminds us to just notice. Like
Mhm.
notice the things around us. So that's one thing. Just noticing when I can experience this connection with something that
Yeah.
technology will never replace. My kids are very creative, and I want to continue to cultivate that with them.
I love it. The 2 things that popped into my mind are kind of similar. One was about humor. I often laugh at AI, but AI rarely truly makes me laugh, in the way
Mhm.
that, humanity can really make you laugh. And the other is smelling my kids' heads, like, right here in this spot. I'm gonna use AI so I have more time to be around my kids and smell their sweaty
That
heads.
is funny. I feel like that's like, there's the Instagram trend now, like, unfortunately, I do love. That needs to go on your list.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit, Julie, and go into what we affectionately call chatbot mode on AI Empowered Mom. And I'll throw out some quick questions, and you're the chatbot now. Just give me the confident answer of whatever comes to mind. Okay. What about favorite AI tool for education?
Conmigo.
Why?
Well, it is built for education. It is built by a company that is an education company. They prioritize data privacy and data security. And I tested it out recently. I tested it out when it first came out, and I actually tested it out most recently. And it is very learner centric, and it is very tied to good pedagogy.
Going back to your time as a classroom teacher, one thing you wish parents knew. Mhm.
I wish parents knew that middle schoolers are actually some of the most interesting, funny, and just like fascinating humans at that point in their life. And sometimes it's hard to see that because of how they present themselves in the world, but like get to know your kids when they're in middle school.
Middle schoolers do get a bad rap, so
They do.
I
They
love
do.
that.
They do, and it's like and like, they're actually going, and I didn't realize this when I was a teacher, like, they are going through one of, like, the most intense period of change, physically, emotionally, psychologically, in these 2 or 3 years that they're put in schools together, and, like, get to know them, get curious about them. That's what get curious about your middle schooler.
We talked earlier about spiraling a little bit related to AI developments. Can you share one worry that you've had as a parent with AI?
Yeah, it's the discernment piece. It is, that they don't have the ability to, this kind of like real life and make believe discernment lens that honestly is hard for adults to kind of figure out now in with AI and what's coming out, especially in the imagery and video and voice
Mm-hmm.
production realm. So that's a concern that I have.
We love celebrating moms' wins in the AI empowered mom community. So, can you share a recent win, big or small, that we can celebrate with you?
Yes. So actually yesterday I hosted my first free masterclass on how I partner with AI like a mother. I've been just thinking and writing and researching for so long, and I finally woke up about a month ago and I was like, just put something out there. Like just get out there, and I work well with deadlines, and I work well with fictitious deadlines that I set, and I just kind of like put it out in the world, and it was such a milestone for me. I came up with Parent in the Loop when I was working on that. It helped me put together something that I can present anywhere in less than an hour. And also, something really special was that my mom joined. Questions that were phenomenal that I need to get answers for her on.
I was one of the people that joined. I loved it so much, and I was so charmed by your mom being there and having her camera on. She showed up camera on, ready to participate, and it's so on brand, like a
I know
mother AI. I loved it so much. Well, what's one last thing that you hope parents and caregivers take away from this conversation?
that we're not supposed to do this alone. And it is like, it's daunting and it can feel overwhelming. And that there are people out there like us that are really trying to help be a resource. And there are a lot more people like us out there. And you don't have to have a tech background. You don't even have to be a parent. You don't have to be an expert in AI or even use any of the tools to want to play a part in, how do we make AI literacy
Yeah.
something that is accessible and approachable and actionable for anybody out there who's working with our kids.
My takeaway is that we didn't have to be parenting experts to become parents. We just do the best we can. And it's the same thing about AI. We don't have to be an AI expert, but we do have to be the parent in the loop to keep our families safe in this new world. And there's power in being the parent in the loop and helping our families live and grow in this age of AI. So I'm so glad we were able to have this conversation today, Julie. If others want to follow along, they can join the fun on social with you on Instagram at Like a Mother AI for smart, real life tips on AI and parenting and being the parent in the loop. And if something sparked an idea for you today, please share it with me. You can always reach me at contact@aiempoweredmom.com or find me at AI Empowered Mom on Instagram or TikTok. And I'll meet you all back here next time. Julie, thank you again so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah.